Hello everyone, my name is Paula and this is my first video. I hope it doesn't come out too awkward, although probably it would, but anyway, I'm gonna try it out and see how it goes. I'm making this video because Robert by Barter Hordes organizes this prize, the Booktube prize, and this is its second time, and he always asks for judges, and this year I decided to come up as a judge, and this year there is fiction and non-fiction, and I signed up for both, but for the first round I was assigned non-fiction, and my group was group F. So there are 6 books in each group, and you have to rank them from first to 6, no dice, and then it's combined with the other judges' input, and then eventually he gets the 3 best books in each group go through the next round. So I'm going to tell my rankings from 6 to first, and my 6th place was for Oliver Sacks' Everything in Its Place. Oliver Sacks wrote several books about neurology. I think the most famous one is The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. And he basically writes about curious things about neurological cases. This book, however, has also a small part of memoir, and he talks about when he was young and what interests him in science. I have to say that this was published after his death, so probably it's not finished manuscript, and it felt like that at least, because the sections were very all over the place, and there was not really a point to the book. I think there was a few parts that I found compelling, especially why he got into science and so on, but as a book it doesn't work really well. So yeah, this is why this is in 6th place, and it was clearly the worst book in my group. The 5th place I put The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee. This is a book that talks about Native Americans and how they have been treated and how they are treated even now. And I think that the topic was very interesting, and it's obviously horrible what these people go through. And this was not a bad book. It was quite fine. But I found some things that annoyed me quite a bit. And the main thing that took this book down for me was that, especially at the beginning, there are some facts about exactly when Native Americans arrived to America and, let's say, settled there. And as far as I am aware, there is still not consensus within the experts on when that was. When I was younger in school, we learned that it was around 14,000 years ago, but that has been questioned by recent discoveries. And he tells this about when they settle. He talks about when they settle, and that the evidence seems to say that it's a little bit earlier than we all thought. But then I think there is, as far as I am aware, there is not enough evidence to say for sure this is when they arrived. But the author takes that doubt as a fact and carries it out throughout the book. And yeah, it was... I thought that was a bad move, because, I mean, it's not a fact yet, and you're just taking it and treating it as a fact, even though it's not important. That doesn't... How many years the Native Americans have been in America doesn't detract from how horribly they have been treated and the right they have for the land. It doesn't matter if it was 14,000 years ago or 20,000 or 50,000 years ago. So I thought that was a bit silly for him to take that as a fact and then that also made me question some of the facts that he presented later. So yeah, it was not a bad book, but it was also, I think, in the informative side, it was not completely accurate in my view. So that's why it's in 5th place. The one that I put in 4th place was How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones, and this was a memoir. Saeed Jones is black man, gay man in America and Southern America, like United States, and he basically talks about his experiences being a gay man and exploring that, and how it was hard for him to come out, and all these different issues related to that. The problem I had with this book, don't get me wrong, a lot of people love this book, and I understand why. But the main problem I had with this book is that the author is I believe, in his 30s right now, and there were certain things that he presented like it was a horrible time in his life, and I don't negate that was the case, but then the justifications didn't quite match to what he was trying to say. Like, for example, he was trying to say that he was very in a very bad place because of all these issues with race and homosexuality and so on. But then he just went out with his friends in university to get drunk and get sex, and I don't think that correlates one-on-one. So the way he presented it was a bit without insight, I felt. So in that sense, it made me feel a bit detached, because I couldn't understand why those things either were important for them to be in the book, or why were they related, and why he was trying to show that his life was so horrible, and then he just went out to drink with his friends. So I'm not saying that he didn't suffer, and I'm not saying that his emotions and his experiences are not valid, but I think he lacked a little bit of insight into how all these things connect, and maybe a little bit of distance, because he's in his 30s, and maybe that's just a little bit early to write a memoir. So yeah, that's why that book is in 4th place. And then from the 1st to the 3rd book are actually very good books, and it was very hard for me to rank them, but I had to rank them somehow, so that's what I did. So in 3rd place, I have Midnight in Chernobyl by Adam Higginbotham, and I have to say that part of the reason why I might not have enjoyed this book as much as I could have is because I read it on an ebook, and well, there is a glossary at the beginning with names and places of things, and I couldn't, in the ebook it's harder to go back and forth with things, so yeah, that might have been detracting my experience a little bit. But anyway, this book is about Chernobyl, as the name suggests, about the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl. And the author basically analyzes the disaster and how it happened, but also it looks very deep into what the government did about it, and how they tried to hide the truth for a long time from a lot of people, and didn't give a lot of directions on what to do. And to be honest, that right now that hits a little bit home. But yeah, anyway, that was the premise of the book, and I have read Svetlana Alexievich's Voices of Chernobyl some time ago, some years ago, and that one was very emotional, but also tedious at some point. And I have to say that I think Midnight in Chernobyl gives a better perspective in that sense. I liked it better, but yeah, I still found it quite dense. It's a dense book because there are a lot of things to talk about. Talking about Chernobyl and what happened and what the government did, and I also found a little bit difficult because it was dense, but also because the names are Russians and Ukrainian, and that's no fault of the author, of course, that's just how it was. But I found that difficult to follow in the sense that there were so many characters or so many people that we followed that had difficult names for me to remember, that at some point it was just a bit too much. But yeah, that was I don't think that that's only the author's fault, and I have to say I really enjoyed the book, and I think it's great what it does, the analysis that it does about how the government reacted to it. And so I think I definitely recommend. It's just that because it was that dense, I found it that tiny bit less of the other two books that I'm going to talk about. And that's why it's in third place, but not because it's a bad book. And talking about the other books, the second place went for Saying Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe, or Keefe, I don't know. But yeah, this book is about the troubles in Ireland. So it talks about the IRA, and it talks about the British side and the Republican side, and how the different motivations basically, and it's structured around the kidnap and murder of Jan McConville. Anyway, it's this is a really good book. It tries not to take sides. First of all, it tries to justify both sides in a way, because both sides had reasons for what they were doing, and it follows several people, especially in the IRA, but also outside, and it follows their motivations and their stories basically in a very, very compelling way. Like this is a chunker. Well, I mean, these are without the notes, but still a chunker. And I really didn't like 2 days because I was so eager to know what happened in the book. So I think that was what made me put it in second place instead of Midnight in Chernobyl, because I found it really easy and compelling, and I could follow everything that was being discussed. So yeah, in that sense, I really, really like this book. But my first place went for Inhabitable Earth by David Wallace-Wells. I don't have the copy because I gave it to a friend to read. But this book is just it's just great. I really, really love it. I have to say I read this before the Booktube prize, and I read it obviously because I was interested in the topic. I am very involved in climate change activism, let's say, and finding solutions for it. So that's why I was interested. But regardless of that, I mean, I can never give a completely unbiased opinion. But in my biased brain, I try to be unbiased. And so this book is divided in sections or chapters, and every section discusses a different topic related to climate change. So, for example, human health, or natural loss, or lack of food, or natural disasters, or whatever, right? And it looks at how these things get worse and worse and worse at 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees warming. So it is structured in that way, and it looks at so many sides of the effects of climate change. and it's so deep and so detailed. And also another thing that I really liked about this book is that its science are very sound, and also they are presented as facts. It's not something that the author is trying to make us panic. It's not trying to make it soft. So it's just how it is, and I really like that point of view. And I also think that in a strange way it's a hopeful book. I know that many people find it very bleak and very hopeless, because climate change is very bleak in general, but I found it hopeful because as a person that has been working towards fighting climate change for a long time, sometimes it can feel like I don't know why we're doing this, because it's already happening. There are fires in Australia, there are fires in California, there are tornadoes when never were tornadoes before, so it is actually happening already. And you ask yourself, like, why am I doing this if climate change is already here? But this book tells you, you know what, if you don't do anything, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So you are actually doing something good, that it will maybe lead to something that is not as bad as it could be. So in that sense I found it very hopeful. And yeah, as I said, I think it's very scientifically sound. I think it's presented in a very compelling and thorough way, so that's why it was my number one. Yeah, so those are all the books that I read for the Booktube prize in the first round. I'm judging the second round in fiction, so I guess I will maybe come up to you with another video when those results are there. I don't know, we'll see how this goes. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and just leave me a comment below telling me if you participated, if you have read any of the books, or anything you want to tell to me. Thank you for watching. Bye.